Now, like I said in the beginning, I don't know, maybe I didn't. But to clarify, I don't like breaking it into the living force, the personal force, and the unifying force. To me, it's all one and the same. There's no point in trying to break it down. Except when somebody's trying to understand the Eastern philosophy term.
I have to say there is a good point to breaking it all down. That's just to make sure that a person is able to look at and recognize all of the different aspects of the force.
Let's go around the circle and get an idea of what people think on this breakdown of it. Like, do you think it's I've already heard what Corbin said, that it can be a good thing, and it's easier to break it down. Do you feel that it helps you better understand the idea? Or do you feel that it's something that you'll kind of log it in the back of your mind, sort of thing? This is just a general consensus. I'm just asking.
I kind of feel it oversimplifies it because it's trying to break it down into smaller portions when the force, energy work, or whatever have you, it's much larger than yourself, the people around you, and then the world. It's all. It's just too much of an oversimplification.
I'm gonna have to agree.
Yeah, it's a bit of an oversimplification, but it's a good step. I like the way it's broken down, the three sections. Of course, I think personally I'd like more reference or other ideas of how it could be broken down and how they relate to each other.
I think it makes it too complex, because from the 5 years of my Christian days, there was one thing that was always preached to me, and it was God is everywhere, everything. And when I think about it, the Jedi view of the Force is the same. It's everywhere, it's everything. There is a force that surrounds all of it. And I mean, I'm sure most of you can relate, considering the fact of, I'm sure just about everybody here has had Christian backing somewhere in their religious path before they decided to come to, the circle. But if you kind of view it like that, I mean, there's no need to break it down any further. So I'm in agreement with Mitch that it's an oversimplification to the point that it makes it complex.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
Yeah.
Not really.
Not really.
But it makes
It is, but it
perfect
isn't.
sense because I said it.
All right, your turn.
Ego.
I think it's an overcomplication, if that's a word. That's not a word, but I don't really care since we're making up words tonight anyway.
Complexity.
Shut up, Shu. It's an overcomplication because I like that word now. Simply because I see a lot of people that are new to it, that are just learning about it, trying to fit ideas and thoughts into the three categories instead of just going, look, it's all the same thing in a sort of sense. Simply, it would be more confusing for some people than it would be helpful. Just my opinion.
My opinion is going along the same lines as everybody else, but I'm going to use maybe a metaphor, I guess would be the proper term. Failure to see the forest for the trees. First coming into the studies of the forest, etc., one would need to understand the forest for what it is, right, as a whole. See its beauty, its problems, everything as a whole. But in time, as you learn more and you mature, the necessity to be able to break it down, to be able to go see that one tree that quote-unquote could be sick within the forest is important so that you can fix that one aspect of it or understand it a little bit better. Because certain people have to have that breakdown. Certain people don't need that breakdown. But I think it's important that everybody have a full understanding, not just the forest, but the tree. So I think both aspects are important.
TBG?
Everyone's pretty much said what I was thinking, so I'm just gonna pass.
Isaac definitely hit the nail on the head with
description, you need to learn to look at the entirety of the thing first to be able to understand the generalization of it before you try to delve too deep in. Because, if you, dang, you just made me lost my train of thought.
I have a perfect analogy for this.
Wait your turn.
Okay, I was gonna say, it sounds like it's really good for educational purposes, because learning about it helps you to be able to, by breaking it down, giving you more basic knowledge of it before you start getting too complicated in understanding it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think it's a good starting point, a good jumping off point. I think you have to definitely grasp this before you can grasp, it as a higher concept from some people. Some people can jump straight to it, some people can't. I think it's a good learning tool to start off with.
Okay, I'm gonna hate saying this, but I'm going to. Like everybody said, I think it is a great learning tool, but for me, it feels like it's been broken down Barney style. And for people for simple minds to learn, but yet some of the more complex minds, it might be harder to learn when it's broken down that way.
It kind of reminds me of the Freudian breakup of the mind into the id, ego, and superego. It's when you first look at it, it seems to make perfect sense, easy to understand, but then you start trying to place things into it, and you realize there's so much that can go into more than one category, or that's completely outside of it altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Intellectually, it works fine, but once you start putting it into practice, there's just so much besides that.
I believe it was Rembrandt who did a painting that was comprised entirely of dots. And it was a scene at a park, families playing over here, group of children laughing and gathering over here, people in a picnic here. And it was the entirety of the photos made of dots. That's all it is. There is no connection between two colored dots. Now, where I'm going at with this is, I think a more accurate description, personally, this is what I feel, to what Isaac and Chris were trying to say, is the Force is much like that. You got to look at it as a picture. You can't be focusing on more or less the individual dots.
Mosaic.
Until you can realize that, oh wait, there's something that seems funny about this portrait. And then you get closer and then you notice, oh, this dot is making the little boy's hand while this dot is making the grass right next to it.
Another good example would be God. You grow up, start going to church. 5 years old, you start understanding, start remembering, right? You're taught in church, God is everything. God is love, God is everything, right? You get older, again, hey, going back to what I said earlier, start learning about, okay, God handles this. This is bad, this is good, everything. It's like a big pattern. Again, making up the whole.
Yes, please.
The word they're looking for, I think, is mosaic.
Very quite possible.